1-800-580-0050.
That real difficult process. We're talking about the number 13, actually turning 13. It can be an exciting age for a lot of kids, but it's that first year as a teenager. It's that one step that you're closer to adulthood. And in some faiths, they believe that you become an adult at 13. So at 13, kids can see, PG-13 movies alone. They can get their own social media pages, and that brings upon lots of questions too.
Yeah, as exciting as 13 can be, it can also be very confusing and difficult. Joining us now to talk about the trouble with turning 13, we have the founder of the blog Loser Girl, Allie Del Monte, along with adolescent psychiatrist Dr. Jodi Gold. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
And Allie, I was on your blog earlier this morning, and it really is, I was saying earlier, it's very uplifting. You talk about your own personal stories. You're 16 years old now, but you've been blogging since you were 12, right?
Yeah.
One of the stories that struck me, it's right on the first page. It actually goes back to when you were 13 years old, and you're showing up like the cards. I think we have the video here. You're putting up cards. You had a moment at a school dance. What happened? And was 13 for you a turning point? 13
was definitely a turning point at that dance. I was still kind of feeling comfortable with myself, but it started when I became bullied. And so I went to the dance, and people were making fun of me because I was trying to dance with my friends. So I could definitely see a turning point at 13.
So before then, you were happy-go-lucky, and then that moment was a turning point?
I was definitely a lot more comfortable before I turned 13. So, I mean, before I was in 8th grade, which was like 13, 14, I had a lot more friends, and when I turned 13, it just kind of all went down.
It's a difficult time, and we all remember being 13, and we look at it really nostalgically as adults, but for kids who are really going through it and parents who are going through it and the struggle with their kids, Dr. Gold, what do we need to know about this? Their bodies are changing, their minds are changing, their hormones are racing. They get a taste of being independent, but really, they're kids.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely... Everyone talks about 13 with nostalgia, but no one wants to go back to being 13.
Right.
Right? I mean, so yeah, there's academic changes, there's social changes, there's physical changes. You got hormones, you got stress hormones, sex hormones. All the hormones are changing.
Why is that the catalyst number, out of curiosity? Because a lot of kids are feeling like 13 is that number, that magic number.
I think 13 is really the cusp. They call it the tweens and early teens. It's in between when you're growing, between being a kid and being a grown-up. And it's a time when you're building your own sense of self, but there's a lot of ambivalence. One day you feel great about yourself, the next day you don't.
Yeah. And we just heard that story with Allie. So, I mean, does that also bring about experimentation? Is that what we see, Doctor? I mean, do we see, as 13 when a lot of kids begin to experiment with things maybe that they ought not to be?
Well, I think at 13, kids begin to have more independence. They need to have measured independence, but they have more independence. Well, I do think the kids start high-risk behavior. As we were talking about, a lot of the sex and drugs comes a little bit later. Some of the high-risk behavior that we see right now is really even on the internet, is sort of that impulsive behavior, the cyberbullying.
Yeah, the graphic that we're putting up, by the time they're 17, 20% have already sent a sext, 30% have already received a sext. So you're now 16. You've been blogging for several years. You actually go talking and give speeches at schools. So what is it that we need to learn from you, and what should we teach our viewers and the parents who are watching?
Well, for the parents, I think you should definitely be aware of what your child is doing. And while you should give them a little bit of freedom, you should always tell them that you're there for them, because we all act, when we turn 13, we kind of act like we don't need our parents, but we really do.
Well, how about that? Like, because I do, I have kids. You say that you guys are not listening to us. You're like rolling your eyes, sucking your teeth, giving us attitude. How do I penetrate through that wall, that defense mechanism that you put up as a teenager?
I think you really have to sit down and talk to them about it, because while you can yell and scream at them, it's not really going to work. You're just going to get them more worked up. So you sit down and you have a talk with them, and while they might still roll your eyes, it's a better way to get through to them.
Okay.
We actually have some tips for parents. We have a graphic we're going to put up on the screen here. I want you to weigh in and see if these would have worked for you when you were 13. The first one, set clear rules and boundaries, teach good judgment, teach a set of values. Allie, does that sound like something that actually a 13-year-old is going to embrace?
I think that they're definitely going to test the boundaries, but I think that's a really good set of rules for parents.
Yeah, set values. I think values need to be set prior to them turning 13 because I think you need to distinguish what your family values are so they really know who they are before they turn 13. Dr. Gold?
I really think it's important for your kids to know your values at this age about sex, friendship, and technology.
Yep.
And then you should work together with them. And they need limits. It's not the time to decrease the limits. It's a time to protect their sleep time, their study time, and to be there for them, and to be a role model.
And be a role model. Remember, they watch us as much as we watch them, and so we need to be the leaders in the families and really do that. Thank you so much. Congratulations on all the good work that you're doing and being a voice for teenagers. Really great blog. Make sure you go check it out. It's called losergirl.com. Ali Del Monte and psychiatrist Dr. Jodi Gold. Great conversation. Time right now is coming up on